Welcome to Narratives and Nightcaps. In today's special episode, we're talking to author Sloan Harlow. Sloan's debut novel, Everything We Never Said, will be released on May 28th, and we are so excited to talk to you. Welcome to our show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is a dream come true. So I'm really excited. I might even be more excited than y'all, like easily.
Oh, I don't know that there's a stiff competition for that, but I have to tell you off the bat, and I didn't tell you this before or anything. I devoured your book.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I mean,
are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh
Devoured
my God. Thank you. That means so much to me. You don't even know. Oh my gosh.
I read it so fast, partly because I was stuck in an airport overnight, but I couldn't put it down. I just couldn't.
Really?
So, I was already so excited to talk to you, but then when we got to read this, I was just even more thrilled and could not wait to tell you.
Oh my gosh. Bree, thank you for saying that. Like, because I grew up a reader and I've had that experience, and never in my, like, where you, like, I've pulled all-nighters accidentally, like, oh, I got to be in work in an hour or whatever. And so that I'm like, that you had that experience it's like surreal. It blows my mind. I like still can't. Anyway, thank you. Like, that's amazing that both of y'all enjoyed it so much.
Yes. And this genre, like this style is right up my alley. This is what I love to read. So I'm like, hell yes, bring it on. I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, oh my gosh, thrillers are so fun. They're so fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite? Like, do you have one that you always recommend to other people?
Oh, that's a good one. And of course, like, now that I'm here, I always love Gillian Flynn. Like, her.
Oh yes.
The first time I read Gone Girl, I was like, oh, like, I couldn't put it down either.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really excited for people to finally get your book. Thank you. Well, thank you and Penguin for the advance copy so that we could get a sneak peek of it. But before we get into that a little bit more, tell us about your drink pairing.
Okay. Yes. So I chose, and it seemed appropriate, especially because all my characters they're underage. And so they would get a coffee too. So I chose an iced ube latte. And so the first time, had y'all ever heard of the flavor / just like food ube before?
No.
I have, but that's because I like cooking shows.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, that's great. I feel like it's gotten more popular in the last couple of years, which is really exciting. So ube is like a sweet potato. It's like a tuber. It's got this gorgeous purple color, and it's from the Philippines, which my mom is Filipino. So I remember the first time I ever tried ube, I was like 9 years old, and one of my titas was like trying to get me and my brother to just like leave the adults alone. So they like literally plopped an entire like one of those half-gallon containers of ube flavored ice cream. And I remember thinking the color was really pretty. Yeah, ube ice cream is my favorite. And I think the fact that it's so hard to find, I think also adds to the allure. But I remembered like eating half, like way too much of it. It's so good. It's like got this, I have a hard time describing it. I've seen it described as like a kind of nutty vanilla flavor. And it's just like, I love vanilla, so it just enhances that. But anyway, so it's gotten more popular lately, and I like one of my local coffee shop, like Valkyrie Donuts. I don't know if you've ever been to Brie Valhalla Donuts or Valkyrie, but yeah, it's I don't like it's you can see that it's purple, like yeah, and so it's just like a shot of, I guess, my mom's home, and I think I can't like fully remember if I threw in a line, but I know in my head Ella, the main character, her favorite flavor is ube as well, just because I was like, it's fine. Yeah, like, what half Filipino wouldn't love? What wouldn't love ube?
Right, of course. I can't remember what magazine or website it was, but I saw not long ago something about how it's like the most Instagrammable food or something
It is.
because it's so vibrant.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Filipinos love taking gorgeous pictures. So it's like it fits. It fits.
So
Very
where,
cool.
I mean, obviously you can find it where you are, but like, have you been able to find the ice cream flavor or anything as well?
It's yes, you honestly you can it's I've only ever been able to really find it in like specifically Filipino grocery stores, sometimes Asian markets. Like
Oh,
there's up in Atlanta, there's an H Mart, and kind of depending on the day, you can find they'll carry ube ice cream, but it's usually there. So my mom's favorite ice cream flavor is it's so funny. It's called ube queso. It is literally the ube ice cream with shredded cheddar cheese in it.
what?
Which is yes, it's so bizarre, I'll even say it. And so like I think I, okay, so like my mom when I like ate ube queso, she was like, "Now you're a true Filipino." And I was like, "Yeah, it's my favorite." I think I do prefer like just like the plain, but I do appreciate a good cheese anytime, even if it's in my ice
Ice
cream. So,
cream. I've
yeah,
never heard of that before in my life.
right? It's so strange.
So strange.
I
Yeah.
haven't either, but I would try it. I would definitely give it a try.
Nice. I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
It's worth a
I'm
try,
gonna
right?
keep an eye out for sure now
Mhm.
just to see. And yeah, but I do. I really want an iced ube latte. That sounds
Oh, I
so
wish
good.
I could. I got like a second one in case something happened. And I was like gonna be like, here, this one's for you. I wish I could just zoom it on over. Google
I
Meet
wish
it over.
I'm definitely gonna keep an eye out for sure. And I'll send you a picture next time. When I
You
finally get
have
it,
to.
I'll send you a picture.
Yes,
So
please. Absolutely.
all right, let's start with the book. So as I said, we were able to read this. We love it. We couldn't keep that a secret from you. But
Oh, so
for
great.
anyone listening that hasn't read it yet, and oh gosh, and this episode I think is actually coming out before it officially releases. So tell people a little bit about what your book is about.
Okay. So it's a dark romance thriller. And so the main character is Ella. She's just about to start her senior year of high school, and her best friend in the entire world died over the summer. And she blames herself because it was a car crash and she was driving. And so she's kind of going into the year like, I can't believe I have to do this without my best friend. And also carrying that guilt, which is, it's grief and guilt. Like it's awful. And then um like starts a grief group, and she reconnects with so her best friend's name is Haley. She reconnects with Haley's boyfriend named Sawyer. And because no one else really understands what she's going through except him, and they get close, and then to kind of add everything to the mess of her emotions, she starts falling for him. And so there's that. And then kind of it's hard sometimes to like figure out how to say this without spoilering, but she finds a Haley's diary, and then when she starts to read it, other stuff starts coming out. And so yeah, it's kind of meant to be this like it kind of like this gritty dark exploration of all these like difficult emotions and difficult topics in general, and but also kind of make you go like what actually happened, what's happening, who done it, that kind of thing. So yeah,
Definitely some secrets and
that's
things
right.
that people
That's
are
right.
hiding.
That's
I
right.
want I do want to come back to like the difficult topics that are in this. But before we do that, when did you first have this idea or even an interest in writing? You said you were an avid reader,
Mm.
so did you always have an interest in writing as well?
Um, Yes. So ever since I was really, really lucky to have parents that like read to me as a kid. I remember my dad like very excitedly telling me about the beginning of the Lord of the Rings when I was like 5. He, like he like acted it out and everything. They had such good storytelling voices. And I got hooked. Like one of my favorite things, like before in elementary school, like before like a big like spring break or something, I'd asked to go to the library and I would like check out like a stack this big. And back then I looked for anything with animals on the cover. I was like, literally, I remember being like, that's got an animal. This one's from the point of view of the cat. That's awesome. And so yeah, I've always loved reading, and gosh, and I have always liked writing. My writing journey is interesting because I I'd always loved it, and like and I always had my English teachers were always very encouraging. And I guess I like didn't have I didn't, but and like there was like when I was in 8th grade, there was like they had like I have for Martin Luther King Day, they were like and I have a dream competition where people wrote stories like, or they said like what they wanted to be when they grew up.
Mhm.
And I chose author. And I still remember like giving my little speech to the whole like 8th grade class. Um and I remember like 2 days later, one of the kids that was like he was kind of a troublemaker. We didn't really talk, but he was in that like cohort, and we were at a Publix, and he like stopped his mom and he was like, "Mom, that girl's gonna write a book one day." And I remember, and it was just so, and then he like walked away, and I remember being like so won over, but also kind of like, oh, if only, because that felt so, you hear about how, impossible it is to, like make it. And so I went to school with the intent of becoming a doctor, because that's just, I wanted to make my parents proud. And like, I so totally wandered. Like I would write on the side and whatnot, but not a lot. Not a lot. I would like I got into poetry in college, and because it was like, I don't have time to write a full book, but I can write a 4-line poem about like, and fell in love with that, flirted with the idea for a minute of like getting an MFA, becoming a poetry professor. And then I graduated, and I was all over the place. I would say that most of my 20s, I was very lost and floundered and didn't know where I belonged, and like at one point, I wanted to be like, I was like delivering for Domino's in my hometown. And it was like I had graduated as salutatorian, and so I had these like ideas of what I was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I kind of couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, I moved back home, and it was like I just was like, I just need something to make money. And so I got a job delivering pizzas. If you're ever gonna like do that, don't do it in your hometown. Like, because I definitely had that experience of like looking at the address and being like, oh my God, is this my ex's house? I think this is my ex's house.
Oh no.
There was one time I delivered to like there like the mom of someone I had played basketball with, and she was like when I opened the door, she was like, well, look who we have here. And she was like, come see who it is. There was like, and which I actually love that I did that. I think it like, because I was able to experience things that I wouldn't have otherwise if I had taken the path I was supposed to take. And I think it taught me a lot about, because I'm like, there was nothing to be ashamed of,
No.
And but like, of course, when you're like 24 and you're like, I'm supposed to be in med school right now or whatever, but I went through that. I then was like, I think I want to be a veterinarian. And so I became a vet assistant. I did not ever get like my degree, like a CVT, certified vet tech. I was a vet assistant. So I worked as a vet assistant for like 6 or 7 years, and decided I didn't want to be a veterinarian. It's because it's so stressful, but I got so many incredible stories from there, and so like I kind of felt like whenever something would happen, something really just like heartbreaking but heartwarming, these I would like feel this like compulsion to write it. So I would like write, and it would just kind of like sit on the side. And then I can't really remember what spot like what I don't think it was like a moment where I was like, I have to try. It was like a slow dawning. Sidebar, and this is also relevant. One of the things I started doing when I was like when we first moved from Georgia to Florida, that was my first like big move, because I went to Georgia Tech, so I never was like ever far away from my parents. Some people, when they go to college, that's their move.
That's great.
Yes. Yeah. Like,
she's like, bye, Iowa.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. See, you're incredibly brave. You did that at 18.
17.
17.
I was a baby. Yeah. So I was a baby all throughout school, and moved from Iowa to Florida, and for school, and other reasons, but moved. And
Sure.
So that was me. I had no intention of staying in the state that long. And now I've been here a very long time.
That's so cool. I can't imagine how was that kind of like, that had to be a hard decision. Was it a hard decision?
Yeah, I was in therapy leading up to the decision.
I don't blame you.
Because it was pretty terrifying. And so part of me was really excited, and I'd known early on that it's a whole long story, but there were certain reasons that I was going to leave Iowa specifically. And so, and I felt confident in those, but all of that said, I knew no one. I had absolutely no one. I had no family down here. Thankfully, I mean, my parents could travel, and like my mom did come down a lot, but it was really hard. And I would say, it was interesting. I was just talking to a younger friend of mine who recently moved away and has been struggling with that decision. And I was talking to her about it. I go, look, like it took me a solid 6 months. And I'm not saying it's the exact same, but the first 6 months were the absolute hardest. I remember sitting in a Walmart parking lot, just crying and looking for flights back because I didn't think that I could do it. In hindsight, I'm so glad that I did stick it out, because my entire life would look a lot different, but it was really hard. And it's totally true. I was like in therapy leading up to it.
I can't imagine. Because first of all, when I made the move, I was 27, I believe. So like older. I had my boyfriend moved with me. We moved for his job. So I wasn't technically alone. Oh my gosh, how could I forget? I also had Pabu, my cat. So
you're never alone.
That's right. But even with all of that, I honestly, truly, the only way I was able to like stay and stick it out is I told myself at the end of the month, I will move back. It was like, I was like, because it would be same thing. Like, I'd go into a Publix and I would cry because it wasn't like my Publix, that like the weirdest things catch you off guard. And, but yes, I feel for your friend. Because it's hard to stick it out. That's the hardest thing. And that's the thing is honestly, I remember that was the way I coped, is I was like, it's fine. I will be living back in Georgia in 30 days. I can do 30 days. I can do 30 days. And then something, you know, when it would get down, you know, because I got a job. I ended up working at a vet clinic down here. And that's when I started improv, actually. I like joined an improv class randomly because I was like, I gotta meet people. Like, you know. And so when those things kind of anchored me, I would be like, I'll just, after this semester of improv or whatever. So like you said, and just kudos to you, Brie, because I'm just like, dang, it's 17. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was a total baby, and I was moving it. So I moved in with 3 older girls too. So like I was just this
Intimidated, maybe, like,
yeah, very intimidated, this young girl in a totally new place and city. But looking back, like I'm so glad that I did it, and I'm glad I stuck it out.
100%.
But yeah, you
Yes.
and so like you joined the improv class, which to me that's so brave.
That's what scares me. I'm like, wow, I would just like go to a dog park, but you're like, oh, let's do improv, no problem.
So brave of you. And so I like when I moved down, I was moving down for something intentionally. So I was kind of put into a group, which I think helped because it was, and that was part of the reason I chose UF, was because the situation I was going to be, I had some other opportunities where I would have gone and I literally would have been alone and around people, but I wasn't going to be put into a group. It would have been just individual me and trying to find people. So I did intentionally go to UF because I was like, oh, I'll already have people kind of, so it'll be easier. But it's still, I mean, it's hard. I think it's hard at any age though. Like that first time you move away is really challenging.
Absolutely.
I second that. Like I went to college same as you, like 2 hours away from my family initially, not terrible, but then post college, my first job, I moved 4 hours away, but it was a different state. So I totally understand. And like your depiction of like the little things that catch you off guard, that was me. Like I went to a grocery store, I went to a Target, and I'm like, it's just not home. It's not the same. And I was that person that did move back. I gave it a year and a half, and then I was like, I'm gonna leave now.
That's okay. I think I was talking to a friend, and she's like in school or something, and she's miserable, and there's like a lot of reasons why she should quit, but she's like, I've never quit anything in my life. And I think that that's such a, like, I think there needs to be a redefinition of like quitting, because quitting does have a pejorative kind of context. And like, I think sometimes you have to try it out. That's the point of like trying stuff out. Sometimes you go, this isn't for me. And like, you need to be given the space, and it is brave to move back too. Do you know what I mean? To be like, this is, so kudos to you. I think that's fine, you know?
I totally agree with what you're saying about quitting though, because I was having a similar conversation with my friend, and just in general, I don't know, I feel like we need to reframe that, because there's a difference between, I don't know, quitting and quitting because something no longer serves you or isn't fulfilling anymore, or you want to go in a different direction, and all of that is okay. If it helps your friend at all. So I was in like a corporate world where, I mean, like steady income, had a really like good title, good job, all of that. And I quit with no plan.
Good for you. That's so badass.
Like, well, I was a total wreck. So don't think it's like that badass, because I was a hot mess. But I mean, similarly, like whatever's going on with her, if there's something happening that's like, this is no longer a good situation or anything like that, like it's really, really hard. And it took me a long time to come to that decision, but it's totally okay to quit and
good for you.
This isn't it anymore.
Thank you for saying that. Yes, I hope that helps my friend and anyone else who, because yeah, it's never a failure to step back and like the older I get, I'm like you have to put your mental health, your family, your all of that should come first. And yeah, I had brought up, I realized I didn't I haven't fully answered your question yet, but the end. But I love everything, everything you said is so relevant and perfect. I brought up the difficulty moving because I fell deep into a coping mechanism of just binging fan fiction. I would spend, when we first moved to Florida, before I got the job, when I was still because my boyfriend would go to work, so it was just me and Pabu at the apartment. And I don't remember fully how when why I reached out to fan fiction or whatever, but I would spend 8 hours a day just in bed reading fan fiction. And when my boyfriend would come home, all I would want to talk about, he'd be like, "How was your day? How are you doing?" I would just literally want to talk about the fan fiction I had read. He had to limit it to, you get one fan fiction conversation. That's right.
I get it.
I bring that up to say and that honestly, that love of fan fiction has never gone away. I still at night, that's what I'm pulling up. I'm pulling up my most recent hyperfixation. But for the longest time, I was so deeply ashamed that this was the thing I was spending all my time on, and desperately only wanted to think about, and that, that kind of thing. And I would say that fan fiction was kind of the thing that put me on the path to being kind of starting to do this, to becoming an author. So during the pandemic, I once again fell into deep hole, because it wanes and ebbs. It becomes a normal amount of consumption to back to the hyperfixation. So understandably, and the thing that was wild is that I think that happened for a lot of people in the pandemic. I think that a lot of I think romance sales went up, Kindle, all that stuff. And so the thing with that was when I kind of found a community in fan fiction, or I saw and there were contests or festivals and whatnot. And I had never written fan fiction. I had only really written stuff for myself or poetry or whatnot. But I was I always see it was always in the back of my head. Anytime I would try something out, maybe a doctor, or maybe there's 5 or 6 things I had I was maybe this. And that was kind of when I had realized I don't want to, I had just, when I quit being a vet tech, I became a manager at a cat cafe, which was my dream job. So that was interesting because that was literally one of my dream jobs when I was in college. That's when I first heard of them. But it was during the pandemic. It was really stressful. And I realized that the dream of it is very different from the practical, running a business, a brick and mortar, especially during the pandemic when you're please put your mask back on. And, people are why?
You're let's just be respectful.
Yeah, 100%. Please don't scream at the cats, please. Yeah. Please. And it's so hard for a people pleaser like me, and so I had just, and that anytime you think you found your dream job and you're this isn't for me, there is a little bit of I'm well, what am I now? What, and that's when I was it always went back to I I should try writing. I should just try it. I will hate if I never tried it. And so when the kind of after I was in that slump after the cat cafe, I signed myself up for a bunch of like fanfic festivals. And then future me was real pissed at past me. You know what I mean? When the deadline was coming up, I was like, why did I do this? This was such like I can't believe I'm about to write stuff that people are gonna see. And so I the first one I wrote, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but it won best smut.
Yes.
Yes.
Honestly was like the prize. I was like that if I would choose a prize I would want to win, that would be the one. And so and then when I did the other festivals, the response, it helps that the fanfic community is probably the most supportive you'll ever get there. And I kind of was just like, oh my gosh, these like connecting with like readers that were like me, and being like all the stuff that I was just so like all those years of like shameful, like curled under the covers bed reading and by myself, and being like, oh, I'm such a loser for doing this, like 6 years ago. It like it came full circle, because I couldn't have done what I had done and read or written what I'd written without it was like research. I didn't know,
Yeah.
And after like I got such supportive feedback and people being like, I would love for you to write more, please. Which blew me away. I started kind of being like, maybe there are people out there who would read what I don't know how many, I don't know if they would pay for it, whatever. But I wanted to connect with readers like that. That's like one of my favorite things is writing something that feels really personal. And then when someone is like, oh my gosh, I totally got this, that's huge. And then so I applied. That gave me the courage to apply to be a ghostwriter for like romance books. And then when I started getting more practice, then I was like, okay, maybe it kind of from there, it evolved into I was really, really lucky to work with someone who had like a contact at Penguin. And so I was like, I kind of have this idea, and they were like, that sounds pretty cool. And it kind of became like a collaboration. And and then in a miracle, in like this one universe out of the multiverse, there's this. So I got incredibly lucky. And I still pinch myself like every day. Like, yeah, that's how it happened.
That's amazing. I love that, because I feel like and Bree's talked about this too a bit. Like, we both left, corporate America for different reasons, but I just feel like there's been all of these little stepping stones, just like in your journey, that just take you one step further that you never thought you'd be doing, never thought you would think about. Next thing you know, you're, delivering pizzas, or you're at a cat cafe, and all of a sudden you are doing what you told yourself you wanted to do 14, 15 years ago. It's insane. It's insane. And I love that. I feel like that happens at a lot of different stages in people's lives as well. And it's kind of funny to reflect back and see maybe those little blinking flashes happening of, you could have done this, or you could be this, and it just comes full circle.
100%. Absolutely. I think we're kind of taught things are linear. But I think it's more like chaos theory. Like a butterfly flaps and all of a sudden you're writing your first draft. I don't know, and so I'm so glad you said it at any age, because I fully believe it's never too late. And not just that, because at first I was like, I wish I had tried this sooner. But I don't think I would have been ready. Do you know what I mean? I think I had to like do all those different little lives and meet the people I met. And so yeah, if anyone is like I'm in the wrong thing or whatnot. Maybe you're learning something that will help you. And when you get to
Yes.
Absolutely. I feel like that's a lesson that I feel like the early you can learn that and just kind of accept that, then the smoother the chaos is.
That's
just,
right. Embracing it, right?
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That is just a very inspiring story. Like,
That's very sweet.
it truly is. Like, for me personally, and I'm sure for other people, and not just people that want to write, I think it's really, really neat to see how you got here or hear about how you got here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because I think I'm brand new to this. I totally feel imposter syndrome like all the time. And especially when I hear people who've like been in the publishing industry or they've written, I definitely feel sometimes like, oh gosh, I'm not prepared for this. I don't, so I appreciate that my story meant something to you, because sometimes I'm like, I do get flashes of uncertainty, just like all of us do,
Oh, we all do. We get it with this podcast, even. And
but it's so amazing.
The last time, it wasn't that long ago, but I was going to a book festival by myself. Well, I was gonna know one person there, but I was going to this book festival and I was telling Megan, and it wasn't even the first festival we'd done, but I go, I just have major imposter syndrome, like going to this. And she sent me like the nicest text to help me prep, because we all do it too. And but on that note too, like when we started this podcast, we weren't talking with authors. That it never even really, like, I wouldn't say it didn't cross our mind, but it wasn't in the roadmap for us starting this podcast.
Exactly.
And because we did take that leap, we talk to authors every single month now. And
that's so cool.
It is
this is like so nice, because it's like I know what that's like because I'm like, I can't believe I'm on Narratives and Nightcaps. This is so cool. So it's like a mutual. This is that. It's because you, and like also it's because you guys stuck with it. I think this is so funny, because we were talking about there's no shame in quitting, and at the same time sometimes persevering through the fear of when you're like, this is not, like, I don't know if this is going to work or whatnot, fighting through that and doing it anyway, doing the version that, do you guys ever in the beginning where you like, I know where I want it to be, but because of we're just starting our equipment or we're learning, where you like, this isn't like, I will write something and be like, this isn't what I want. Like, I want it to be here and it's not here. And that's really painful to sit with and to write it anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, we do.
We definitely get that. And like, we made mistakes. And
if you listen to like our early episodes, actually don't listen to them.
When I look at like it kind of makes me cringe when I look at our podcast stats, and it'll be like, someone listened to episode 1, and I just go, oh, like,
sorry.
I know what you mean. I feel that way about like the first fan fiction I released. Like, I'll be like, no, like, but I think there is courage also in not taking it down, And I think honestly that's important. Because like you see the finished product of like 10 years of work, right? Like whenever you see like a comedian you love or whatever, especially if they just became like famous or whatnot, you're like, oh my gosh, they just now are starting and they're incredible. But you don't see that they've been at this for 15 years.
Right.
And like, I feel like that's so important. And like, that's one of my favorite things, is to look at the first thing someone I love has done, because I'm like, that, like, it's so validating. Like no one starts off, like like amazing. And I know that sounds very like basic information you should know, but I need that reminder all the time.
Well, same here. Because it does, I don't know, it's not basic, but like it is at the same time. But there is sort of this bar where everyone feels like their first thing has to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And and we definitely, I mean, we had to quickly just accept that it just wasn't going to be all the time, but we were going to continue to try to make it better and put ourselves out there in ways that we'd never had ever before. And I mean, it's been a journey, but the fact that we're here talking to you and that we do talk to authors every single month and get to support new authors and meet new people is so fulfilling and so cool. And it's a space that I always wanted to be in, but kind of like you, I didn't think it was possible. And so getting to hear stories like yours, it makes me want to keep going. And like it does, it's validating. It shows us that we're where we need to be. But
yes.
Yeah, no, it is finding that weird balance between when you should quit something, but when you do need to persevere and be determined and push through whatever you're going through. And I do feel like you personally can figure that out. Like, you know, when it's just not the right situation and you've got to ties with whatever that is. But then you also know when it's your passion and something you love, but you just need to refine it and work harder and put in the time, do all of that.
That's right. Absolutely. Very well.
I will say too, like, I mean, our origin, we did a format change like 6 months in last year because we were like, this just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel as easy. It's, taking too long or whatever the case is. So I love the idea again of like, you're not necessarily quitting, but you're doing that pivot to make yourself continue to move forward and just see how fulfilling it can be. And again, as Breeze said, and I'll echo it, like, never thought I'd be here. Never thought this was going to be in the cards for me. We both love reading. Bree approached me with like, what do you think of this idea? And I'm like, sure, let's try it and see what happens. So I always say, like, don't give me a lot of credit because I don't do a lot. I just show up. I'm just the kind of silent partner, it feels like, but I've loved doing this, and I've loved so much how we've been able to reach different authors as well, because this is unfathomable for me and I'm living it now. So it's been crazy.
Cheers to us. I'm very proud of us.
Cheers to that. Yes.
Yeah. Cheers to that.
I do need a sip of this, actually.
Papa says hi, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
She loves when I'm sitting at my computer, her first thing is to come and like try and lie down on it. It's she lies in my arms when I type, which is amazing, unless I'm like on a deadline and she's here asking why she can't lie down on the computer right now.
That's so sweet. Oh, she's so cute. I love it.
Thank you. You're very sweet.
Okay, so I'm a little bit curious now, knowing that you love fanfic, knowing that you won the Smut Award too and everything.
Yes.
So I guess, why did you choose to write from a high school character's perspective?
Good question. Like I said, it was like a little bit of a collaborative process. And when I realized I kind of wanted to touch on more serious subjects that I thought, which a lot of people would be like, that is also not appropriate for YA, which I totally get. I was like, there's no age limit to difficult things happening in real life. You know what I mean? And I think I wanted to explore, because I knew people in high school going through really tough things. Everyone's going through a tough time in high school. And it felt, I wanted to kind of like, I'm not saying that I have any kind of, it feels too like highbrow to say I was like reaching anyone or whatever, but I kind of wanted to explore that difficulty when you're like when you kind of are in between having, when you still honestly have very like less agency in your, like when you're trying to know what it's like to grow up, trying to understand that, like grapple with big decisions that you've never really had to do, like, you know, and I wanted to like focus more on that than like the more like I would like fun things to write about, you know what I mean, like more like less like lighter for me, you know, subjects.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't
It
know.
does. And I was curious about that too, but I appreciated it because there isn't an age limit to topics like that. And so I like that you're giving space to those things because there are people of any age going through that, and trying to navigate that while in high school is arguably harder. Not that it's ever
Yes,
easy.
that's
And
right.
so I thought about this too, because I was like, some the topics I would say, I mean, they're mature, but then I was also like,
Right.
but I know what I read in high school, and
Yes.
it doesn't like, so
Yes.
it's easier for me to say that now at 30, but like,
Right.
I know what I read in high school. I still have the books at my parents' house that I
Yes.
read in high school.
Yes.
And
Same.
so
Same. Yes. It's that right. That's that. There's that balance. I think when it comes down to it, because anyone is allowed to like have their opinion on what they want their kid to read or not read, right? So as long as I feel like it's like well labeled, you know, so they know what they're getting into. And because at the same time I am like yeah, I definitely read like more adult books in high school. And I don't think
like,
that
do you
was a
guys
bad
remember,
thing.
sorry to interrupt, but do
No,
you remember
please.
the like OG 17 magazine where they would have those like very compelling stories? And I remember reading
Yes.
those in like middle school and being like,
Yes.
holy shit, this is
Yes.
insane. So I feel like, as
Yes.
you're saying, this content
Yes.
seems very applicable, even possibly to a middle schooler, because there's no
That's right.
age limit, as you've said, on the grief aspect, on some of the domestic
Yes.
aspects, and
Yes.
on specifically some of the grooming aspects that occur in this novel
That's,
as well. And
that's right.
even more recently, I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of, I'm sure you guys have heard of the movie May December, that whole case that has come
Yes,
out.
I
So
saw
there's
it.
more and more
Yeah,
films shining light on
that's right.
situations like this too, that I'm sure as a parent, like I have a toddler and I want to make him very aware of these
Yeah.
situations, but I also think it's good to invest in those topics so that your children understand or like can talk to you for whatever reason of whatever they're going through.
yeah, and to your point, Sloan, like it's really all about just properly labeling something too,
Mhm.
and that goes across like even if it's a adult fiction,
Yeah,
anything like that, fantasy,
100%.
all of that, like it should be properly labeled.
Yes,
That's the
I
big thing.
agree. Yes, I think like right, like I think yeah, I think when it comes to content, for the most part, it's like there's because I feel that's one thing I've like there's an audience for like across the board. It's just you know that people want to know what they're getting into. Like
Mhm.
so totally get that. Totally get that.
I would argue that for our last read, I wish I'd known what I was getting into a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
That
Labels,
happens
labels,
to me
labels.
too.
So important.
Yes, yes.
didn't know. It was a
Yeah.
surprise, but it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. In fan
Um,
fiction they call it tags. Like that's like it's a big thing in the fanfic. Like they're like I said very accepting and like they're just like just show me the tags. They're at the top and then yeah, you know whether or not to go in or not. Yeah.
so when you're writing about all of those things, was it challenging to be, I don't know, I would just imagine your
In
brain
that
and your thought
headspace.
process. Yeah, having that mindset. I don't want to get like too into it if you're not comfortable, but how
No,
was
no,
it
no.
writing like that?
It was hard. There were a lot of chapters where I was like crying while I was writing them, which I didn't fight because honestly it feels good to cry. Like but also I wanted to do that was probably my most when it came to everything in the book, that was the thing that was the most important to me, was doing like full justice to these tough topics, to the people who have gone through these things. You know, Haley's people are fictional character. I don't know if like with that, I'm trying not to do spoilers, but like, they're fictional, and their experiences are very, very real though to a lot of people out there. And it was I did as much research. Like I really tried to research. I read books. I talked to people in my life that had been through things and pulled from what I had seen in mine. And it was like hard, but I think it felt worth it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it felt like it served. I felt like it was supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like I felt like this would like it felt like it was serving the subjects. And so it was, and I was I did it like I just kind of I wrote this book was written kind of in like a matter of months, and I just sort of spent, it was like in this headspace. It was for a little bit, but I guess it never, I don't want to say that. You know how like when you look back, you forget like the kind of roughest parts, you're like, that wasn't so bad. Yeah, if you ask my boyfriend, he'd be like, no, there were definitely times you wanted to quit. Like, but I like right now, I guess I just feel like it was all worth it. If that makes sense. I don't know if I answered your question. I apologize.
No, you did. No, you did. I think that makes sense and is refreshing to hear. I don't. So, how do I want to say this? When you're able to, if I'm not saying you have to cry, but like if you're crying, if you're feeling what the characters are feeling and what that situation is while you're writing it, then I think that emotion comes through in your book a lot more. And that's really evident with your characters. I mean, Ella in particular, but you really feel that, and that's so important when you're reading. So I would say it definitely is worth it. And
okay, thank you for saying that, because I never know if it translates.
well, it's all my opinion, but
I'm happy with yeah.
I definitely think that it does, and I think that that's important, because if you are going to tackle tough topics like grief and abuse and other things like that, like you kind of need to get into it and not just gloss over it.
That's right.
Because justice is that? I don't know, that's probably not the right word, but hopefully you get what I'm saying.
I do 100%. Yeah, exactly. It's like you have to like, I guess, look it in its ugly eye,
Yes.
And tell, like, that was, I think, my thing is I wanted to try to be as close to and I'm not saying I did accomplish this, but like that was my goal, was to be as close to just truth, whatever that looks like,
Yeah.
At
In
least
a
in
fictional setting.
In a fictional setting, I think there are some things that are like wild, but like when it came to like the core emotions, that people feel, and yeah.
That's awesome. Switching gears, I love your cover because
Isn't it gorgeous?
it's amazing.
Thank you.
I know you had a cover designer, at least I'm pretty sure when I stalked you on Instagram.
Yeah, yes.
But were you all involved in like the vision or the process at all, or did you just kind of say like, do what you want? Because it's stunning.
Oh, well, thank you. I say thank you on behalf of oh my gosh. Penguin, I think her name is Kelly. I tagged her on Instagram. Please go to my first Sloan Harlow's first post. I definitely tagged the incredible cover artist. I trusted them. I was like, you guys know your stuff. I've never designed a book cover in my life. Please, you know, they read the book. I was like, you know what vibe to get. And yeah, when I first saw it, I was blown away. I was like, what? And so I'm glad that you love it too.
Oh my gosh. It is so, it's so good. The first time as soon as it arrived, I was like,
Yeah.
that's incredible. I'm
Thank
obsessed
you.
with the way that it looks.
I know.
So,
It's like I did too. I also really love I get made fun of a lot by my friends because I wear like black all the time, which is tough in Florida. Yeah, I do it. And like I didn't change in Florida. And like I was like, I would totally wear like all my outfits with this like color scheme and vibe, you know? I loved it.
that's awesome.
I'm very much am like you do a little bit judge a book by its cover. And if
Mhm.
I saw this cover sitting in my bookstore, I'd be like, absolutely, yes, I would love to read this. So
That's
obviously
Thank
I have
you,
already had the
Megan.
privilege of getting to
Yeah.
read it first. But like
That's
it's those
awesome.
kind of compelling, like, oh, you kind of want to read more about what
Yeah.
it's going to hold for you. So great cover art.
It
Thank
is.
you. And thank you to Penguin for for killing it literally with that. Yeah.
They definitely did. Okay, so this one's coming out, and I am sorry to ask this, but I just can't help it. But you said you're working on a second book too.
Oh,
So
yes.
what can you tell us?
I don't know what I'm allowed to. I will tell you that it's not a sequel.
Okay.
It's like
Okay.
its own standalone, and it's got a similar vibe, like kind of. So Megan, hopefully it's like up your alley again. It's kind of got the romance and like thriller vibe. I it's it's a little more like tricky, I think, because this I might have made the mystery too like top heavy. I don't know, but it's been really fun to write. I'm literally like, what am I allowed to say?
You don't have to say it like
Okay.
that's all you want to say. That's fine. It
Okay.
just Megan and I were talking about this yesterday. How we're like so excited to talk to her. Like we're both talking about like just fangirling over the book, how much we loved it. And I was like, I'm gonna ask her if she's doing anything else because like I'm excited to see what else she's gonna write.
Oh, that's
So
huge. Thank you. That's a huge compliment.
And
that's
like
why.
toot your own horn because you absolutely deserve it. We were both like, for this being a debut novel, like, holy shit,
Really?
this is amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Like
That
you
is
write
huge.
like a very experienced, like I feel like I have read this novel, you know, like it seems like, oh, this
Really?
is coming from an author that I already know and love, and I can't wait to read what happens next. And so,
Oh my gosh.
yes,
That means
don't feel
that's
like an
everything you
imposter.
could
You
say.
deserve all of this.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You 100% do. Okay, so you've got like a couple of bookstore events coming up too to talk all about this. So where can people find you if they are in those areas?
Yeah. So on May 29th, I will be at Tombolo Bookstore. 7 p.m. is when it starts. That's in St. Pete. So if you're in St. Pete, Florida, you should definitely hop on by. Also because Tombolo, like you were saying, Brie, is incredible. And then on June 1st, I will actually be doing a signing and like a little conversation at the Barnes and Noble in Marietta, Georgia, town center, like across Barrett Parkway. I'm like giving directions. I'm like, if you go left at
turn right at the gas station.
The coolest. So that's the Barnes and Noble my mom would take us to growing up. It was the closest.
Oh.
So that's why I chose that one, because I was like, this is for you, baby Sloan. You know. So.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. What are you looking forward to most about both of those events?
Oh, good question. I don't want to expect like too much. I'm preparing myself for just like me sitting at a table, like drumming my fingers, while people are like walking by being like, who is this weird lady? But I would love like to meet a reader, like meeting you guys, and you've read the book and are excited. That's really cool. I would love like just a reader that got some, I don't know, like honestly just asked a specific question about my book and I'm like, you read it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to do everything I can to be at Tomvolo, because I would also love to meet you in person.
I would love to
hear your conversation there. So that would be really, really good. People that aren't in Georgia or Florida, where can they find you on the World Wide Web?
Well, I think right now I am trying to get better at social media. It's been a learning curve, but I think you can find me on Instagram at Sloan Harlow author. And I try to, that's I think it for now. Eventually it'll be more, but it's I'm still a baby author. So yeah.
You get it.
Get it.
Appreciate. Thank you for
you don't have to explain.
Even my own personal social media I don't keep up with, and I definitely should be.
Yeah,
same, girl. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is what it is. So
that's right.
But we will definitely at least link to it in the podcast notes, so if you want to follow Sloan, you can, to hear all about her events and everything else, and then when that second book is coming out as well in the future. So definitely stay tuned and definitely go get everything we never said, because it is so good. It is absolutely incredible, and we're so thankful that you spent this time with us, that you told us about your journey, and so sincerely, we really, really appreciate it and are honored that we were able to read your book.
100% the same. I'm on. Thank you. I could say thank you for another 45 minutes, but truly, this is such a pleasure. I really appreciate you, Bree, Megan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.